Welcome to the Ecom Collab Club podcast, where operators, risk takers, and battle-tested founders drop the lessons that cost them time, money, and their sanity, and share what actually works so you don't have to pay the same price. Hosted by Peter Gardner and Adam Pierce, founders of the Ecom Collab Club and Blend Commerce, the Shopify CRO agency.
All right, if clicking through GA4 bores you to death, this episode is for you. Today we're talking AI and analytics. Our guest, well, he's built websites on dial-up, fitted tires, studied business, lived in CRMs, helped a pet franchise jump from 30 to 100 plus locations. Now he's at Glazing Vision, wiring marketing and customer service, and using AI to turn noise into clear action. None other than Darren Lake, Head of CX and Marketing at Glazing Vision. And best I not forget to introduce you to Rich Evans, who's co-hosting with me again today because Adam is still trying to tan it up in Spain. How's it going, guys? So welcome to the show.
Look at that introduction! Wow,
I know.
It seems like that X Factor introduction, doesn't it? Where like,
Do you know what? Do you know what I've realised though? I feel like next time, because I've got the live version of that script. If in case you didn't know, that was scripted. I feel like I could add a line in there, and just like Anchorman, he would just read it out. So I might try that next time.
I'm definitely not as smooth as Adam with that introduction. He sounds more natural. You can probably see me reading it. You can probably hear me reading it.
Yeah. The other thing is, I maybe get back to the opticians because it was this part of it as well.
Yeah, I definitely need a new set. I think I haven't had a new pair in about 3-4 years. So I think the eyes have deteriorated since then. I love the fact that you guys are just starting straight out the gate here and taking the piss out of me. But
absolutely, I feel like that's the tone set for the rest of today. Darren, good to meet you. If you could put a little bit like more meat on the bone of that introduction that Bob just gave you. So just a quick version of that journey from dial-up through CRM, franchises, and now roof windows. Like, how did you get to where you are?
I don't think I understand the word quick. I think if I speak to my partner always says you should kind of shirt around the answer all the time. So I try to go back. So I can go backwards. I'll try to go backwards as much as I can. Really, I kind of had a passion with technology, anything that side of thing, right going back to the age of when I was 12 years old, and my mum and dad bought me my first computer. And within about 2 weeks, they bear in mind they spent about 1,500 quid on it. That was like one of these old tiny machines. And basically, I took the back off it and ripped it apart, and then didn't know how to put it back together. So you can imagine my mum and dad was not exactly happy with me by that point. So I then started doing that, and then I basically was this Army Cadets side of things, and I decided to build their website. And you can imagine the days on sort of dial-up and having to go and build a website on that. If I look back at that website, if I still even got it on my computer, it's like, oh my God, it's so cringy, it's really bad. It's like this camo background, this white font that you could barely see things on. Obviously, with the dial-up days, you had to be quite concise with what you had. You didn't have the bandwidth, like you couldn't have moving videos, and it was all about basically my part was that I felt that as a business, all we were doing was getting these like newsletters, once a month about what we were doing. And I was like, actually, we need to have something that can keep the young people engaged. And so I then designed a site, and it had what we were doing, all the stuff that we'd done. So I built this first, and that was a static website, so it weren't using CMSs, it weren't, there wasn't something like WordPress or nothing like that. So I did that, loved doing that. Went all the way through, absolutely terrible at school, got to be absolutely honest, didn't do amazing, bummed out of school, and then I simply went down the job centre when I was about 17 and said, right, I need a job. So basically they give me a job they said, go and be a tyre fitter. So I think, how hard can it be, these little diddy tyres on cars, easy peasy. Didn't look at the job description and realised that they were massive tyres, that the size of your first floor of your house. They got these massive earth moving things. Went home to mum and dad and went, oh my God, I don't know what they've got me doing. I was only like small then. These guys were massive people. And then because I was 18, I had a driving license. They went, here we go. You can just, here's a van with big yellow lights on, go out and do some breakdowns, go and get some money. So then I got stuck in that rut doing that for a few years. But what that did teach me was basically how to talk to people, the amount of different people in life. You can imagine the conversations you had with lorry drivers, Tesco delivery drivers, general customers coming in. So I actually got to be around sort of people. And by that point, I'll be quite honest. And so I'm diagnosed with being autistic. So communication to me was quite hard. So being in that scenario, actually working with all these different personalities helped me able to communicate with people. And I got to see what happens on the ground level of how a customer experiences services. And then basically by that point, then it was really, people might say it was a really bad thing that happened. Got diagnosed with epilepsy, lost my driving license, which means then I lost my job in tyres. And then that basically forced me down the route of, hang on a minute, I've done some websites years ago. Let's just go and build some websites for people. So on my own personal, I did a bit of freelance, got back into websites. By that point, WordPress was all about, and cracked on building websites. And then it just went from there. Then realized very quickly that you can't just build a website. You then need to do SEO. And then before you know it, you're building shops for people. What actually accountancy software they got? They got Xero, they got QuickBooks. How's their operations working? So before I knew it, I weren't just building websites, I was actually getting involved in the business itself. And then very quickly realized that I weren't doing amazingly. I made a lot of mistakes. Then went off to university, proved to everyone that I actually can do things, rather at school where I bummed out. Went and done a business degree. Fast forward that, 3 years, carried on doing what I was doing with websites, went straight into missed out with our pets, went and joined a pet care franchise, grew that from 30 to 100 with the owners there. And that was very different, knew nothing about pets whatsoever. And then I left there and then went and joined Glazing Vision, where I am currently. So all that, what I learned in the past, I then brought to Glazing Vision, start Glazing Vision as a marketing manager, and then very quickly then become Encompass, which obviously we'll chat about that later on, how that sort of encompassed into a CX role rather than just a marketing role.
I feel like there's definitely some twinning going on here, but actually I feel like it's probably me and you, I feel like it's similar generations, and I feel like there's a big cohort, big group of us in e-commerce now, where e-commerce and like even marketing wasn't really a vocation. Like we didn't go through school and like careers advisors weren't talking to us about e-commerce and things. It was, uni degrees were not really that focused on it. And so I don't think any of us that are probably of the generation that we are grew up thinking, this is what I'm going to do. We've all got here sort of cobbled together from different journeys. Like mine was a bit more of like a salesy kind of route and customer services. I worked on holiday parks, and again, that sort of learning to talk to people and serve them and things. I think now, we get people that are doing degrees and wanting to do postgrads and stuff, and it's a real vocation now. So I feel like we've built this city, and now
absolutely. I think what my business degree did, I chose business. I didn't choose a sort of part way because I thought it would give me a kind of breadth of understanding of what's happening. But I made a decision as well. So straight after my degree, they tried to get you on the graduate programs, and they all said, go off and go and work in the prison service, fast track, and you'll be a governor within like 2-3 years, whatever it was. And basically, I then decided actually, I can actually no. And my wife at the time said, "What on earth are you doing? And this is civil service. You're going to earn some big money here. Pensions amazing, that sort of stuff." And I just went, "No, I'm just going to go and work for this We Love Pets." And she go, "Who on earth are they?" And I said, "Well, they're this little pet care franchise, got about 30 franchisees. I will go and work for them." They go, "What do you want to work with them for?" I go, "Because they're doing absolutely everything terribly. I mean, they're terrible. I mean, like I went in there and my interview was not actually a interview. It was more like, these are the things I don't like about your business." And I think I got the job within about 2 hours after that. They went, "Yeah, where's your office?" And I actually joined We Love Pets just because basically I thought we can do things better. And it's kind of, that's where my passion was, rather than just going off and earning a salary in the civil service and being sort of safe with it, really.
Nobody's got time for boring jobs. I'm in the same bracket there. quantity surveyor turned into e-commerce. So, strange backgrounds we all come from, and we find ourselves in this wonderful industry, which is, I think, as we all know, a lot less stuffy, and we can have a bit of fun in this industry. Talking about the beginnings and what do you do? Let's go back to those static website days. What habits from that time still make you a better digital marketer today?
I think it's understanding then that everything was so slow. Everything was so slow to, when you're building stuff on dial-up, and I know we then moved on to ISDN very quickly in my early career, and then we moved to basic broadband. But even then, you were lucky if you can get 1 megabyte a second, and also doing stuff on computers as well. My first computer I was doing stuff on had like 16 megabytes of RAM on it, a hard drive with maybe like 10 gig. Everything was so much harder. There was none of this automation. It was just hard graft. And I felt that basically especially when the dial-up was so slow, when you are building user experiences, when you're building it, I feel that you had to rely very much on content as well, because you couldn't fall back. And I do, when you think about Hollywood and you think about all this latest film, I've got a person that used to work in BBC, and Hollywood went down this whole CGI route, but they lost the storyline and they lost the art of telling a story. And I think I would say that's the same thing when it comes to building websites and marketing, is that sometimes people default all to this lovely flash stuff and focus on the font, and they focus on all these other things, but they don't focus actually what the actual content is. And I found then, because you're relying a lot on text to capture an audience, then your content had to be compelling. That's my own thoughts about that, really. You didn't have all these lovely glamorous things to fall back on. Now I do think that now it's brilliant. We can do this lovely layout design and do these awesome conversion rate optimization techniques, and we can rely on lots of things that we can help the user experience now. But I feel sometimes the content and the substance to the page is sometimes lost with all this noise, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. And there's the saying in conversion rate optimization, ugly still sells. So if you've got an ugly site that's got the right content, got the right information, you're ahead of the game with a website that just looks pretty and works with beautiful animations and things like that. It's pointless when you start looking at, okay, well, what does that do for me as a brand, and converts.
And I think exactly, and I think where you go from there as well, where a lot of the mobile audience, you've got a huge mobile audience now. Various industries have got different metrics in regards to how much their audience is on mobile. Glazing Vision, surprisingly, actually, with mobile is a lot less in the construction. People do resort a lot to desktop, a bit more, but that's just the industry what I'm in. But when you think about mobile, the actual attention span is so low, so you have to capture the audience, and you have to give them an amazing, and then also to deliver two separate experiences, one on desktop and on mobile, and understand that how they're going to use your site is in very different ways. And it's just the sort of journey with that, really. I think to go and see, from me, or when I first built websites, it was desktop only. So sometimes I have to rein myself in and go, actually, there's tablets, mobile, and I have to remember all these different other channels, because I'd automatically subconsciously just default to building when I do experiences, I'll go, what's the desktop like, because that's just the era what I come from. But absolutely, now it's very much going down a mobile first approach now. So
yeah. And then tell us like, when did you, obviously AI hype came in about, I think it was 2.5 years ago. It's been hyping since. When did you start getting stuck in? What did you start learning with from the AI front?
Well, the AI is a really interesting question, actually, because basically prior to that, I was at We Love Pets. We used this system called Workplace, and owned by Facebook, but it's no longer a thing now. I think they're ditching it now. I think they realised that's not what they want to do. But basically, we had all our franchisees in the Workplace, and it was an internal communication system. So what I released this, I worked on, and I remember launching at an annual conference, this little AI thing called Buddy, but it wasn't so much AI then. It was very much kind of like, hang on a minute, you're giving me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. So it was very much chatbot focused. So it understood that, gives you an answer, but it was before the era of LLMs. So before then, I realized that actually people needed to navigate our handbook using conversation. They needed support using conversation, not just reading reels of all that. So basically, I developed that. And to be honest with you, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not going to rave about things I've done amazing. I've got to talk about things that didn't work, and that didn't work. It was really appalling. It just didn't. There was no human element into that. It was completely dry. It just wasn't very good at all. So what the idea was is then when ChatGPT come in, very early days, at very early models, thought, this is going to be quite big. This is going to be. Now, I remember going to I was in a meeting with the directors at the time, and basically I showed them a use case. I said, it can help us write blogs. It can help us write blogs. It can give us some creative ideas. And bearing in mind, we're a pet care franchise, so we look after dog walking, guinea, all different types of animals. I then wanted to write a good blog about guinea pigs, and it come back and talked about it being a delicacy in Peru. I said, this is not going to work for us at this present moment. But it was understanding this is what it could be, but it's not there yet. And I think that's when you start dealing into it. Hang on a minute, when you start talking about guardrails and various other things and making it work for you, how does the system know your business? And I think then when I first delved into it, it was very much, let's just boot up ChatGPT, throw a few questions into it. Obviously, since then, it's progressed into having connections into various other CRMs, and it's just gone beyond itself. But I remember literally looking at certain people and they're like, nah, so this is going to work. And I think it's a bit like the kind of Microsoft days with sort of where they went, no, people don't want a smartphone. It's just not going to happen. It's people want to have a stylus or they want to use a computer. And then before they knew it, obviously BlackBerry kicked in and everyone else kicked in. And I think at that point, the people that I was speaking to was very much like AI. And because you watch them films in the past with, you turn it, everyone associates AI with this whole self-awareness thing, but actually rather actually it being a tool to help you do your job. People think, they just default to the Hollywood movies, and they looked at your blank face, and it's like, no, you're absolutely tripping. But now you fast forward X number of years, and you just think, wow, how far has come on since then.
Yeah.
And can I indulge us in CRM as well for a little bit, like while we're still talking about where you started and where we sort of come on to, because you've kind of lived in and around CRM for quite a few years as well across those roles. What are the three biggest lessons that you think where people are still doing CRM the old way, and like how would you encourage people now to be using CRM to turn raw data into revenue?
Well, I think at the moment, CRM, when I first used it was very much people to treat it as a kind of database. And then early days when I delved into CRM, I started using stuff like Infusionsoft, and then I then moved over to ActiveCampaign. But I think you look at the way I see it is that CRM, it should handle all the repetitive stuff you do. But what I tend to find as well is that people also focus on CRM in regards to, they feel that this goes into a pipeline, this is the email that goes out, but they don't take into consideration, they just think, they go into certain characteristics, but they don't go into what is a user doing at that time and personalize the communication. And I feel when you think of AI and CRM, I think using AI to segment that data far more granular and making it more concise. You're not just sending out, that person's under the pipeline, I'm going to send them a welcome email, but you're sending that to the same messaging to the same people all over. It's about understanding that person has been on a different journey on the website, and that requires a different response. But also with CRM as well, is I tend to find a lot of people also tend to use CRM in the sense of, let's go and send out mass loads of emails and let's try to streamline things. I think CRM should be really used in a sense of empowering people, because people buy off people. So it's actually nudging sales teams to actually send that personalized email, or nudge that sales team, this person has done that, do this. So it still requires a human element of CRM rather than basically going down the hole, let's just go and automate as best as possible. So yes, I'm all about automating, giving them nudges, doing follows up. I also find as well is that people get loads of data in CRM, but they don't tend to action it either. So they're sitting on troves of data, but that doesn't pay the bills. It's about turning that data into insight and then actually doing it to actually to make an actionable change that drives revenue. I don't know if I've shared around that answer or not, hopefully.
No, I think so. So absolutely using AI, but more so for determining and personalizing when and what the touch points are, and then keeping that sort of human approach to the way in which we actually converse then.
Absolutely. And you know, obviously you see all these metrics, you see open rates and follower counts, yeah. And I'm all for, you know, I want to increase my open rate, or I want to increase this count by this much. But it's going deeper into that and tying that to web behavior and what is the actual person doing, what is their behavior, what are they doing, rather than just looking at that single metric. I want to increase my open rate by this much percentage. It's understanding what that person is doing on your site, recording that, and then following that up.
Sorry, I was on mute there. So, Darren, walk us through how you guys are using AI and how you're implementing that at Glazing Vision now.
So Glazing Vision, so obviously, if I go back to when I first started Glazing Vision, I started as a marketing manager, so very much come in and was like, hang on a minute, we can do things this way. So if we think about a few use cases for a scenario, you've got case studies. Now, case studies used to be a huge amount of time. So we now transcribe calls. We, rather than sending a questionnaire to a person and saying, this is you know, what did you do here? What did you do here? We have a free phone conversation for a good old hour on a phone with a customer. We transcribe that conversation. It's an open conversation. We get loads of information. We then take that transcript from that conversation, feed it into an LLM, basically turn that into a structured kind of document that helps us do that. But also there's a person writing it at the same time. You can imagine the amount of speed it then takes out of building a case study, because we can take all the information rather than having to just do a simple survey. That's just one use case that was very early on. That was a kind of quick win, really. So it was kind of making the team a little bit more faster with the way they do things. But really around customer services, because that's really what I want to kind of get involved in, really, is in the sense of I embedded the customer service team in with the marketing team, because I felt at the time in the future is that marketing is great, but if you can drive repeat revenue is all based on what the customer journey is, how they experience your business, what touch points they had, how they had a problem within your business. So if you use to merge customer services and marketing together to a certain degree, you create this whole CX environment. And the focus would not be about the whole 7 Ps, what you talk about at school, you know, promote and all that side of things. It's all about what is the customer doing? How do we make this customer journey better? How do we solve issues with the customer? And then that will then turn into repeat revenue. Now, you can understand with Glazing Vision, there are only a certain number of architects in the whole of the United Kingdom at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, you just want to keep driving. You want to obviously be able to form a relationship with them. And I think marketing now is all about building a relationship. It's not about, you know, just shouting about your product and saying amazing things. And, you know, I'm an Apple enthusiast, so I've got an Apple Mac, I've got an Apple this. And what I take from Steve Jobs to a certain degree is that he created great products and created a great customer experience. So people buy Apple products because they have an amazing customer experience. So what with Glazing Vision, the same concept, really, that basically they have such an amazing experience that they just keep coming back. And also they find you more credible. So you don't have to keep spending huge amounts of money on marketing and PPC trying to get new customers all the time, because you're getting reoccurring revenue, because before you know it, you're just putting an endless pit of money into Google in regards to this. I just want to win more customers. I want more leads. But really you need to look at what is that reoccurring person coming back in.
Yeah.
So AI, a part of that really was understanding, because our product's quite hard and quite technical and complex, because I haven't come from the construction industry before, so that was quite a big learning curve for me. The questions that you get is quite hard, and for someone to understand that is quite hard. So using AI, you've got this huge knowledge base that it instructs the customer service agent to basically give them the tools they need to draft a reply, but it doesn't do the reply for you. So then you humanize it, and you can take that technical knowledge and you can articulate it and give it to the customer. So it's been a big driver in regards to our customer support. But even so, very much early days. I'm actually use another example with sales. We had a point where where we divide the UK up into various segments, and the leads come in on geographic location. But there's a lot of other variables involved in how you assign that to a technical specification manager. So what I decided to do is basically normally their lead would come in and it would take about a good old 4 or 5 hours, and it would go through people to assign it to the right person. Now, when it comes into a CRM, based on certain variables, based on interactions, based on the past interactions, based on the geolocation of where they are and everything else, we can now assign it to a TSM within seconds. So the TSM get it within seconds. So you can imagine normally on a Friday, basically you've got a 5-day working week. You would normally have to wait till the Monday before the lead even got through to a TSM. Now, if technically a lead comes in on that Saturday, it's getting put through to a TSM, it's gone into the CRM, and then what we're doing is from that point, that 2-day journey. So say before the TSM speaks to them on the Monday, we've got them on a little bit of an educational journey in regards to gathering more information about what that person wants and assisting them with the product before it even gets to a TSM. So that's how we've used it's a bit of AI, a bit of CRM automation, all kind of blended in. And I find when you talk about AI, it does blend with CRM and it does blend with automation. So a lot of people use the terminology AI, but actually, in fairness, a lot of it is CRM and automation.
Yeah, accessing the different bits of information and making sure that you're feeding that to the right system. Darren, you obviously touched on the fact that you guys are now automating that side of things, and it's cut down that process a lot. For the more technical people that are listening, what is the tech stack that you guys are using to do that?
I'm not personally a developer myself, and we've gone through a bit of a journey. So we started using we did use Salesforce on various things. Got to be I love Salesforce a bit, so I've used it for years, but it could become incredibly how do I do it without sounding really bad? It's an endless pit of money.
Just sound really bad. Don't worry about it.
No, but no, Salesforce is great, but obviously, when you think about it, before you know it, you're buying another product, then you've got another consultant coming in, and then you've got consultancy fees on that, and it's in a way sometimes it's not viable. So it's a bit of a mixture between the two, really. In regards to LMNs, use OpenAI and also use Google Cloud. In regards to our CRM, you're looking at we've got into HubSpot, but also that connects in with our e-commerce, which you're then looking into Shopify, which we use for our e-commerce side of things. Then you've got our website, which is more of a bespoke CMS, which we built in as well, based on the new website that we launched this year. And then we've got a bespoke system that's Glazing Vision Zone in regards to the pricing tool, because this is just unique. So the team here has done an absolutely amazing job actually creating their own one. And with that, you can understand the challenges involved in that, because you haven't got a dev team and licensing. You haven't got a dev team of 1,000 people like what you would do like something like if you want to implement a change like Shopify. You've got a team of devs constantly working on a roadmap, and we have to then constantly do it ourselves in-house, which then becomes a bit of cost. But I feel it positions the business in the next 5 years. Now, I'm not going to lie, it is a bit of a challenge, because when you are starting to implement stuff like AI, it becomes a bit more complex, because you think about Google agent space, for argument's sake, at the moment, is that they're building in connectors, but they're building in connectors within existing technology platforms like HubSpot and all these other ones already. They're not, say, playing ball very much if you've built something yourself. So you're going to have to build that yourself. So implementing AI, potentially, if you go down the bespoke option, you are slowing things down. Whereas if you say, like in the Salesforce environment, you're going to be building something on Agentforce, and Agentforce is already embedded into that platform. Say like Salesforce, another for example, they have a product called Data Cloud. I'm sure it's called Data Cloud. Data Cloud, and basically that allows you to automatically connect in with various other platforms like Shopify. So you can imagine person uses different name on Shopify or use different email address, and you've got all these different data silos. What Data Cloud does is it kind of brings them all together and joins all the dots, because there's nothing worse in marketing having the same person exist in 3-4 different places, duplicate contacts, just because they put their name spelt wrong there, or they've got their email address done wrong there, or they've used their personal email address on there and their work one based on there. What Data Cloud tends to do is it kind of understands the whole all the different environments and blends that person into one unique contact. So from a marketing perspective, it's brilliant because you target one person. You're not, yeah.
Let's that's probably a more macro view of what you guys are doing at Glazing Vision. How about you in your day-to-day role? How have you seen that change in the last, say, 2 years? What tools are you using around AI, and what specifically are they doing? How much time is it saving you?
Well, I think at the moment, doing the actual changing the whole scope in regards to the whole department, literally lifting, because you've got to bear in mind, I've only been at Glazing Vision for about 14 months, 18, I don't know, actually, now I've been here for about just over a year, I think. Time goes quite quickly, but basically, it's it's mainly around using Breeze AI, and so using Breeze within HubSpot. So it's basically segmenting the audience, understanding the tickets that are coming in from a customer service perspective. So it's basically using that to actually try to get the person through quicker and get them the right answer, but also see if is there an opportunity that we can actually sell them a different product. And when you think about upsells, you think about obviously when we had Glazing Vision sells anything from stock items all the way to roof lights that basically could be $250,000, $500,000, £1 million projects. So it's understanding, how what does this person need, and putting them in touch with the right person at the right time, because it's nothing worse you're talking about something and the person doesn't have the technical expertise. So it's understanding the AI routing the person on the right path, so it goes through the right person at the right time at the right purchasing time, and also understanding in a sense of is it also the right decision maker as well? And you can think, for example, person who's technically buying a roof light might not be the actual purchaser, it might be the builder. So therefore, you speak to lots of multiple stakeholders at times. So when they're interacting on the e-commerce side of things, on Shopify, you've got to think that the person that pays for the order might be the customer, or it could be the builder. But if it's a customer, the builder's normally done the research and done that side of things, and then they give the details to the customer, and then the customer's then purchased it. Now, when it goes into the sales pipeline, you kind of miss out them other people, and it's joining them all together into one pipeline and understanding who is involved in that, because what you need to attribute it to understand what you've spent. So in regards to going right the way back to the Google ad, how much money did you spend on the Google ad? Who went on the website? What did they do? What channel did they come into? We had another challenge, which we're still working on at the moment, in regards to basically they'll do a lot of stuff on our website, and they will go and purchase it in the cart, and they will go and buy it. But in that midst of that, they've also spoke to a person in the middle of that, because our product's quite complicated. They spoke to someone on telephone. So what we've now got is AI that transcribes a telephone call, and it also scores a telephone call, understands the compliance to that call, to understand it is the person talking about the word cheap. Do they mention the word? What are certain keywords that they're using, so we can actually change our marketing and our messaging. But more importantly, it understands, has the person converted on the telephone? So what we can then do is we can align that telephone with a conversion. So sometimes they might have done everything on the website, but they might have purchased on the telephone, and then we registered to that same conversion. So it's kind of going through that whole attribution. So what AI helps us do is understand that whole journey of where the person comes from, and that way we can then re-improve our marketing to understand. And that is a challenge we have, because we still do have more phone calls, and really it's adding that to the pipeline.
Yeah, but I think you're touching on something that so many people forget about when we talk about analytics and data. You're talking about qualitative data, and it's not quantitative data, and then you're now using AI to get all that qualitative data and make sure that you're processing it within your systems, and then improve the website off the back of that with your content and things like that.
And it's also understanding as well. There's a lot of, when I first started in the world of, CRM, it was all about structured data. So it was all about completing fields. And they said anything that's in unstructured data, so if it's in notes or anything else, if you want to try and merge from another CRM to another one, they go, no, you can't take your notes with you, because you can't, because that's just unstructured data. And in regards to telephone calls, but now the great thing now is when you transcribe your telephone calls, these telephone calls automatically goes into a CRM. They then goes into a corpus of information, which technically an AI can then do. And then an AI can then summarize that record. So we say in HubSpot, argument's sake, with Breeze, you've got that contact record, and that's profiling that person on all that unstructured data that you never had the ability to do before, because that unstructured data, unless you stroll through it and go in each individual records, it's kind of an abyss that you just like. And I think what AI helps you do is take that unstructured data, but also you can automatically feed that into then structured data, and that gives you an understanding of who that customer is and what they're done, rather than in the past, the CRM, trying to keep a CRM updated, you'd need a team of administrators just making sure that the data was clean, accurate, and everything else. I think using AI now, you can basically cleanse that data far more effectively, because you've got an LMM in the back there going in and sorting out for you. So basically, you've kind of got an admin in. And I think, when I talk about from an ethical side of AI, I'm very much around AI. I don't believe AI is going to replace people in jobs. Well, I hope it doesn't. Of certain businesses, that's the way they want to go, and that's what they want to do. I personally feel it's actually a tool to be used, and it's a tool to empower your employees to then become more productive and for them to make the right decisions, rather than basically going, I want an AI doing everything for me and completely automating your business. Because, as I say before, people, when they interact with a brand, they want that human approach. They want that personal approach. And I feel at the moment, obviously AI's got a long journey to go. I don't feel it's at that place at that present moment in time now to do that. And I feel that, yes, people use AI in creative. I think it's come on leaps and bounds. I think Firefly's with Adobe done absolutely amazing. I think Canva's done an amazing job with certain AI. But I still do feel that basically having that human involved in that and making them decisions, understanding your audience, and you really understand, letting AI do all the data crunching and giving you the insight of what you need to make that decision, and then you go off and interact. And that means, and that could be anything from writing copy on your website to simply building marketing creative assets on Adobe. That only, I feel at the moment, a person needs to be involved in that process.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. And my sort of theory is it's human to the power of AI. It's not AI to the power of human. It's you've got to have that human involved, and AI is the one that makes the human be able to go and do more, that creative element, be able to actually go and do things a little bit quicker, not do the boring bits. And I think that's where, and I heard this the other day, was if you're starting to, if you're listening to this and you're starting out with AI and you're going, okay, well, where do I start with AI? Go and look at your processes in your day-to-day. Don't look at what's customer facing or market facing. Rather go and look at what's the boring bits in your own processes. Implement those things first, save some time, save some cognitive load on the boring elements of the business, and then bring the creative, the elements where the human actually adds the real value and actually makes sure that the human's doing it.
Because when we think about if I go back to the transcribing side of things, just with sort of GV with telephone call, normally, and then we go back a lot of years, simply then things will be recorded, be put in a Windows file and a computer, all in date order. But unless you're going to sit there and go through every single telephone call and listen to every one, by having AI literally go in there and understand certain things, and then actually be able to give you a playbook to understand, to then be able to give to your team and go, actually, we could possibly do things this way. We're going to drop off on this. I feel I don't think you'd get through that much data to be able to make that actionable insight quickly, because it's kind of a process that you have to visit quite often, because consumer behavior changes constantly. And it's actually changing that customer roadmap. Because bear in mind, when we launched our website and we done an amazing job, I'd imagine that the previous predecessor that built the website and the experience based on what the user was doing then. And we talk about it now, and you walk into a business and you question the predecessor and you go, why on earth did they do that? Why on earth did they do that? I can't understand it. But you're only basing it on what you're seeing now, and you're thinking, well, they made a really bad decision doing that. But they obviously made decisions at the time. And I think what AI will do is that will keep us more relevant now and keeps us more up to date. And so we're able to act a lot more faster and be a lot more responsive rather than, and in fairness, we talk about forecasting. I feel that's where it's going to have its own element in regards to forecasting ahead, really. Understanding what's, I looked at a case the other day that a person was on holiday and basically AI is with this business, and it simply looked at what the person was doing, their buying behavior. I don't know if you've been like sort of Centre Parks. I think I've got Centre Parks behind me on my wall, but basically, you've got this lovely band that you go around with. I haven't ever spoke to anyone in marketing at Centre Parks, but I'd imagine that band has a lot of data to that person, to that room number, to know what they've bought, where they've done, what activity they've done. So it's actually understanding it and actually giving people the marketing collateral and push and nudge behavior while they're on that week's holiday there, so they're making purchases there and then, because there's no point marketing to them after they've left the holiday park, because they're already gone and they haven't spent their money. So it's understanding what users do on a behavior and actually acting in real time and coordinating and taking assets and driving more revenue there and then. And I think you should treat the same with e-commerce. When you're on an e-commerce site and you're doing on-site optimization, you've got a real time. I personally feel that basically as time goes on and we look at that at the moment, we see that websites are at the moment, you go onto Amazon.com and that's what it is. I feel that every person should have a unique experience on a website that suits them, that the website automatically dynamically populates compared to them. And I think that's where LLM, I think when you talk about natural language and you talk about years ago, I think Skype was the first one before even ChatGPT. They was going about, you will be able to do your holiday on Skype. And I feel that is where things are going to go and see people, our children, like my children go on to Amazon Alexa and they ask it everything. They don't interact with the screen. They just ask Alexa to everything what they want to do. And I find that's someone's natural form, is that that's the most natural form of language, is that you have a conversation with someone. It's not natural to get a mouse or a finger and push it on a screen and go on script. The most natural form is to have a conversation with someone. So I feel using elements like OpenAI, I think OpenAI's got a partnership with Shopify to my understanding, and it's basically being able to purchase things in a conversation. Obviously agent mode is on ChatGPT. I think it's still got a long way to go as yet. It's incredibly not very good, but you can see the direction where it's going, and I feel in time that will only get better and better. And your site will be interacting with AI bots basically. I know Cloudflare at the moment is trying to implement a thing so AI can't crawl a website, because obviously publishers don't want their content crawled. You've got to be very, very careful with that, because I feel that at the moment, obviously, the journey where AI is going is that the customers will go, I want an appointment here and I want you to go and do it for me. And that just goes and be its PA. And it could be, I want these set of trainers and I want this color. And then an AI will go out and go, right, I want to go and purchase some trainers. This is a person's marketing budget. I know the person's bank card. It automatically navigates the website, go into cart, purchase path. So I think my personal opinion, I feel that AI will become more of a PA, and I think that's where marketing is go. You're going to be optimizing not so much for the user, even though the user will still be it, but you're also going to have to consider optimizing for artificial intelligence as well. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen all the time, but I feel that that will happen more and more, and especially with generations. But that's more of a personal thought rather than a market insight or trend report. That's Darren's kind of predictive insight.
Wow, your partner's not wrong. There was a lot in there, and I've been trying to pull out those little things about. So first of all, I want to go back to the transcript stuff, because I'm a big fan of that, and I feel like every audit, obviously from a CRM perspective, I do at the moment, I'm saying the same thing. And I actually got rich levels of angry about it yesterday, not Bob levels. Like my rich level would be like Bob's sort of level 1. Because there was all of this talk about, you are an angry man. There was all of this talk about tone of voice and all of these things. But what I'm seeing is they're just firing people into the website. They're firing people straight into the CRM from lead ads and stuff. And all we're getting is a name and an email address. And I'm like, you are targeting different audiences to generate the right adverts on the social media platforms for these people, but then you're just sending them all into the same funnel. Why not continue, at least tell us what audience they've come from and stuff, so that we can separate them. So big fan of using first and zero party data to personalize an experience. Now, My question, and I'm well aware of my place here, like this is like QI where they have a couple of genuinely really intelligent people to sort of match up with Stephen Fry, and then like the comedy dude that's just there to make the odd joke. But websites can personalize, but rely on cookies and stuff to do so. And so what we saw is when that was first possible, everyone just went out and did it, and then regulation sort of kicks in, and then cookie regulation, and then it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. At the moment, the regulation of AI, like you just said about some publishers not letting AI sort of scrape it and things. So I record every call, and obviously the person has to accept that. And I'm guessing there's like we record calls for training and quality purposes sort of message and things like that. They all exist. I will then absolutely use that transcript to help me generate a follow-up, generate a proposal, do a little bit of a brief to any wider team that need to know what was discussed on it and things. And I by choice do, when I've used a GPT to help me create an email or a follow-up, I do disclaim on the email, like, by the way, I've used our transcript and a GPT to help me speed this up and capture the detail. Do you think that, like, you mentioned about like the ethical side, and we'll get onto that and stuff, but do you think that recording those calls and then using it to personalize experiences is going to come, not now at the moment, but is going to come with a need at some point where you have to disclose that?
Oh, absolutely. I think that also that's also incredibly hard. It's like, do you know when you have these ones where you kind of sell someone and then you have to reel off this lovely blurb, and the sales goes, and then like no one ever listens to it. And I feel that, obviously regulation is going to catch up. I don't think at the moment. I actually quite surprised actually that regulation is actually quite slow compared to what's happening in the market at the moment. These tools are being made with no regulation because they can be made. And I feel that regulation is massively going to catch up soon because it's going to have to. But I also find it's kind of like, it's scary, isn't it? Because when you've got a consumer and you've got to disclose that, and you go, oh yeah, I'll use an AI to do this, and then there's a consumer you think, oh, they're happy that they're having their adverts in front of them on Facebook and you follow them around the internet with various things. So they've been on Amazon and then suddenly they get an advert on Meta or not. They're happy because they're getting their products. But I think when you start talking to them and saying, this is how we did it, it's really hard then with it. It then becomes incredibly hard because then you then talk about brand trust, and then what are you doing this? How are you doing this? And I think what you'll then see is a massive increase in regards to what data you've got on me. I want a freedom of information request. What are you doing on this? And that's going to become incredibly admin heavy. Which already, if someone says to me, I want you to know what, if someone put a request in, it's, the amount of time it takes to do that. And do it effectively, and also have the processes. And you speak to most businesses, most probably don't. Half of them have got GDPR. They say they give you a GDPR policy. I bet you half of them probably don't actually have a process in place for data retention. They say that they have a 7-year data retention policy, but the likelihood that they're actually going to do that and have a system in place that auto deletes that data, there's so many small businesses and companies that have been in that, say they got that in their policy because they copy and pasted it off someone else's website because they didn't make their own cookie policy or their own privacy policy, but they don't actually do it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, do people get savvy to it? Like, do people start to sort of share tips and stuff? And if that became like a common practice, do people know that, a bit like if, the whole like abandoned cart thing, I know that if I don't need something in a rush, go and put it in my basket and then wait 24 hours because I'm probably going to get a discount on it.
Oh,
do people know then if it becomes common practice when we're in a sales call about something that they do want, if they mention the right trigger words and stuff, then they're going to get the best discounts and the best promotions for it?
And I think what you touched on is absolutely correct. Like, I think it's when you've got human involved, it's hard because the human sees behind all that. But I think probably people will end up trying to gamify AI because it has a structure, and once you know the algorithm and the way it does things, then you're just going to gamify it. A bit like over the years, what people have tried to do with Google and SEO, they've tried to gamify the way of getting. They just trying to understand shortcuts to get to the top of Google. And I find with I think hopefully Google's coming on a bit of leaps and bounds here. I'm not really impressed with their AI overviews. Apparently, I put my address in the other day, and it said I lived in a 4-bedroom house with an ensuite bathroom, and I was like, how on earth did you know that? But I don't. It randomly plucked the information from anywhere and got it completely wrong and completely hallucinated. So I don't. So I think I can understand where kind of Google's going with that, because Google, I feel, is going to be doing the same. Google's using AI for their search results, and so it'd be interesting what people on their tactics try to do to try to gamify that, really.
I think as well, like, especially the British public love nothing more than when they realize that someone has released something and they can make a mockery of it. Like I remember Boaty McBoatface, like name our new or the Gritter, sort of name our new Gritter, sort of Gritter McGritface. And was it the Walkers campaign where I think it was like a social media thing and you could basically determine a message of support to someone and they would print it on a sort of thing and that'd be Gary Lineker holding it, and people realized that you could put literally anything on there and then you've got a picture of Gary Lineker supporting reform or something crazy like that. So yeah, I think as people at the moment, I think people are very much a little bit intimidated by AI and kind of looking at it, and there's a bit of a fear factor, there's a lot of excitement. I think that we'll sort of get to a point where people are less intimidated and more sort of wanting to show a power to go, as soon as I see something is AI, I think there are people out there that will want to try and break it, will want to try and trip it up, and will want to try and, like you say, gamify the system and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I think when they get a new model on an LLM, I always get on there and go, how on earth can I see if I can make it do something not what it's meant to do, just because you do, really, don't you? But that's what I do, because I do a lot of different things. But I'm really interested now in the sense of seeing where AI mode is going to go with Google. Obviously, it happened in the UK, didn't it? About obviously quite a number of weeks ago. Been in the US for a little while now, and I'm quite interested on Google's stance in the sense of, are they going to want to try to keep you on Google more rather than send you to your end website? So do they want you to drive the purchase on Google through Google Shopping? So you drive through the cart, so you have a kind of a cart experience on Google. There's nothing to say that's going to happen, but you can see where things are going with AI mode, that they want you to spend more time on Google. And obviously, I think the other day as well, I remember reading up on ChatGPT. I don't know if it's correct or not, so I don't think the source was that amazing, but basically they're trying to, the amount of sources that they were giving was less. So actually they were attributing less to sources and try to, so you stayed more within the conversation itself rather than clicking elsewhere and going elsewhere. So it kind of, I feel it'd be interesting where kind of Google's going to go with all this and how the user experience is going to turn out, because obviously Google would love you to stay in their world, because the more you stay in their world, the more data they have. So
that kind of leads me into the next part about the future of CX and personalization. So you've touched on it about, you believe websites should reflect what we know about the customer that's come into it and kind of hone it. And I feel like your business and the way that it works, so correct me if I'm wrong, but your website is more of a discovery sort of platform and things, and then a lot of the transactions are happening in with sales reps and sort of calls and stuff.
So obviously, so the higher value the order, you then go through, because you need to have a technical specification manager. And that proves quite hard with AI, because obviously with a lot of building regulations and things that could go wrong, you look at back like years ago with like Grenfell, and that you have to really prove that you're giving the right product to the right person and everything else. So when it comes into that, it goes through a technical specification manager. But on our e-commerce side of things, when you think of rooflights.com, that's more of a stock transaction. So you tend to be dealing with a lot more builders, so people that actually understand our product, use our product often, and there's sort of less complexities. So there's kind of two sides to that, really, how we sort of sell things, really.
So do you think, so I was talking in a group call with other e-com agencies and stuff yesterday, but I believe there's and you've touched on it in terms of the transaction capabilities of AI and chat and GPTs and stuff like that. I feel like there's a potential where websites do become more of a flagship discovery sort of area, where people are going to come and discover brands. So a bit like retail has gone, where you have a lot of flagship stores still, where a lot of work goes into sort of presenting that brand and telling the story in the best way possible. But the transactions can take place in those stores, but more often than not are taking place on home or on marketplaces and stuff. So do you think there's a future consideration? We're all sort of trying to develop our websites and stuff in ecom to get people to sort of transact on that website. That's the goal, like conversion rates and orders placed and stuff like that. Do you think it's going to sort of switch at some point where it's going to be more about making sure that your website is a bit like, conference, you can have the best venue in the world, but if you're not in with the right venue bookers, you're not going to get the big places and stuff. Do you think it's going to be about optimizing our websites to be in with all of the different AI sort of transactional, personal shopping, personal assistant type services? And actually the UX is going to be more about, if a human does come to the website, it's presenting it in the best way and then almost prompting it to add it to its personal shopper AI agents list sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel as well with that, I think there's also going to be a degree, as scary as it also sounds, I think they're going to be bridging, obviously, bricks and mortar. We talk about online, but we sometimes forget about bricks and mortar. And I think the whole two are going to blend together. That's my personal opinion, is that simply you're going to use image recognition using AI. And when you walk into a store, that's going to try and actually understand that you've been online and done this certain behavior, and that you've been in store, and try to actually do the two together. So basically, you might have done a lot. Some of your product shopping, you might have actually done it in a bricks and mortar store as well, and you might go back online to do it. And that's when you then start talking about privacy and image recognition and various things like that. But I feel that basically when you go into a store, then you'll have display units, and they'll automatically display based on what you've been seeing online, and then you go back online, and the whole. I don't think there'll be this divide. I think it will be a simple one, sort of that online bricks and mortar. They'll all be the sort of same sort of user journey, really, and also you'll be in various marketplaces, and I think you'll be interacting more based on text. And we kind of forget as well. So we talk about text, we forget how far speech has come on. With ChatGPT, with their image recognition, and Google being able to automatically look at your screen share on your screen, and you can visually talk about what you're doing. How do I do this? How do I do that? So I feel like you're going to get more like a kind of personal shopper experience.
Yeah, and I think the brands that are going to win are going to be those that embrace it. So like in my CRM world at the moment, as soon as you make a purchase, I then want to be putting you into a sort of a flow and a time delay to replenish that replenishable if it is, or to come and buy the next sort of best thing if it's a one-off purchase.
Absolutely.
Sort of thing. I think it's going to be about like maybe suggesting, right, you've got this, great. We suggest that you plug this person, tell your personal shopper agent or tell your personal shopper GPT about your purchase and stuff, so that then it can remind you and it can come and place that order on your behalf.
Absolutely. And I think that CRM really is kind of the underpinning part of it all, because CRM is the data of what you learn from. And I think that's where, you look at Salesforce and you think of their sort of products or what they're offering. And ultimately, in the middle of that sits Sales Cloud or CRM or anything that sits a CRM, because without that data, and without that data being in actionable, being in a cleanse, so I feel over the next 2-3 years, if you're in any business whatsoever, it's about taking people on a journey to get their data in order, getting them onto a CRM that's connectable and advised, and then then you can jump on AI. But I think a lot of people are trying to jump on AI and trying to get AI to do lots of things for them, having really poor results, and they're saying, no, AI is rubbish. It just doesn't do it just doesn't understand the data. It doesn't. Your business don't have a structure to it. So I think at the moment CRM is most probably, because I'll always default CRM because I love CRM, but CRM literally, if you're any business at the moment, getting your CRM and getting your data in order is probably the most crucial element, and doing that, especially over the next 6 to 12 months, is most probably get that in order, and then you're laughing.
I'm so glad you said that at the end there. I think, everybody kicked off when ChatGPT 5 came out, and they were like, this thing doesn't work as well. And then ultimately ChatGPT or OpenAI went, okay, cool, we'll give you 4.0 back to you. But it was because people couldn't drive it. And it was
I think also people are not scary as well.
Fun.
I think it's scary as well. On ChatGPT 5, they took away the personal experience, didn't they? So a lot of people had their emotional connection. They talked about their life stories to it and had this emotional connection to it. Then they released ChatGPT 5, and it's a little bit more concise and giving you what you do answer. And they go, my best friend is just gone. It's just like disappeared. And actually, and I think Sam Altman even said actually people are forming an emotional attachment to AI. Obviously not everyone, but certain people are forming, and they didn't predict that it would happen this quickly. And obviously we talk about revolutions. The AI is happening at such a pace which outstrips the industrial revolution, and every revolution that's come about has always happened quicker and quicker. But obviously AI is just literally hit in by storm.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, it's like ChatGPT 5 is literally going from you driving your Ford Focus, and then all of a sudden you're driving an F1 car with 5. Over the weekend, I went to my son's soccer match, and the coach was away, so I volunteered to do the subs. And I was like, okay, I'll do the subs. And it was 5 minutes before the game. And I went into ChatGPT and I was like, hey, can you just help me, just when should I run the subs? You know, there's only 4 people on at a time. We've got to sub 2 people on. The game's 40 minutes. And it pumped out like a whole big answer. And I was like, okay, cool. Can you just run like a timer to remind me on that? And without me even knowing it was going to do it, it built a full-on web app that I clicked on and I could play it. And it ran for the whole game. I literally timed the game with it. I knew when to run the subs. It told me exactly who to sub for who. And I was just like, I did that in about 3 minutes. And in fact, I did it in 3 minutes and I still, just before kickoff, they went, hey, let's play 5-a-side instead. So I had to quickly adjust it, and it adjusted it within a minute. And I was like, this is insane. Like how powerful.
The game's gone. The game's gone. Like you can't change football with AI.
Well, you think that VAR. I think VAR has killed football. I think, haven't they? So
yeah, you Southern Hemisphere freaks coming in trying to ruin the beautiful game. Stop that immediately. I'm going to speak to UEFA, FIFA, and make sure that the use of AI is ruled out in kids' football. This game's gone.
Just to run the subs, Rich. Jeez. On that note, Michael's got a question for you. Will AI reduce our capacity to think for ourselves? And then,
that's a really good question, actually. I think someone wrote a book years ago about it. I think my partner talked to me about it as well. And basically, I think within time, when you have this whole reliance upon it and it makes decisions for you, it is quite scary to a certain degree. I think the other week they were talking about that's sort of like they've put a kibosh on it, where the UK government was going to put £2 billion and give everyone ChatGPT Plus in the whole of the UK, which is not happening. I think they've said, no, that's not happening. But I think you do have that risk that basically you do become too reliant upon it. But there's one thing though there's also a spin on that. While you're using it as a tool, it also teaches you at the same time. So I got it running through some contract policies and I looked at UK regulations and various things. Yes, I had to proof it, but actually it taught me inadvertently something that I didn't know anything else about before. So it's made me a lot more knowledgeable to be able to answer that question again. So yes, I did use AI to help me answer that question and ask it, can you go and structure certain things for me? But now it's kind of taught me actually best practice on how to do certain things. Yes, I had to validate that and make sure it's correct. So I think there's kind of two hand in hand. If you're a person that just want to get the answers from it and go, yeah, that's it, that's fine, and just be it, well, that's not going to work at all because it is going to make society a bit more dumb, basically. But if you learn from what it gives you and then you don't answer that same question again, well, then you're learning from it. So I think there's kind of two sides to that, really.
Yeah, going backwards and forwards on AI is the important part to challenge it, I think, because if you're not challenging it and you're just accepting the answers, then I think 100%.
I think that's half the problem with AI. It's basically getting the prompts right, and it's understanding what to ask it, when to ask it. And early days in ChatGPT, you had to treat it as a child more, so you had to really structure your sentences and give it concise questions and then build up to what you want to get to. I think with the later models now and then moving towards AGI, I feel that it's becoming less and less, but you still have to get and I think that is where I think that's what they should be teaching in schools. I think prompt engineering at schools now should be, rather than saying don't use ChatGPT, don't use AI, this is plagiarism, blah blah blah, they should be using the ethical choice of how, because AI is going to be a massive part of our future and how we're going to do things, and it's about teaching it at schools and how you can effectively use AI to help you get the answer. A bit like, we've kind of embraced over the years that, people now use Google to get the answer. When if you don't know something, you Google it and that's what you do. And I think with AI, that's the thing, and that's why education perhaps needs to teach people how to use AI effectively. And I think then the work environment, like when you then go off and you get an entrepreneur and go off and go and do something, then they've got the tools to do the job.
Yeah, 100%. Right, we've gone over on time, and I think we all knew we were going to do this today. I've enjoyed listening to you, Darren, rattle on about
Thank
AI.
you.
Rick, thanks for entertaining both of us.
Hopefully I haven't rabbited on. Sorry, I do apologise.
Rich seems like he's happy with what we spoke about today, so it's all good.
Yeah, I didn't go too far down the AI rabbit hole. Like I feel like I didn't have to drag us back to real life. So no, it was just the right amount of waffle.
We didn't get too technical, did we? Always good, huh?
No, I didn't have to get my buzzer out once. I feel like, it was one for the people.
Rich, thank you so much for stepping in for Adam again this weekend. Darren, thank you so much for coming on and enlightening everybody. And on that note, everyone, thanks for listening. And if you've enjoyed it, please do like, share, and follow us on any platform that you like. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Ecom Collab Club podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join our community at ecomcollabclub.com/community.